Welcome, everyone, to techaily.ai. I'm your host, David, and joining me is our expert guest, Sophia. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit techaily.ai to get started today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So I want you to picture a specific number right now. Just visualize it on a balance sheet. $32 billion.
And not in stock options either.
Right, not in projected valuations. $32 billion in liquid capital.
It's just a staggering figure.
It really is. And today, March 11, 2026, marks the official close of the transaction, where Google actually handed that exact sum over to acquire the Israeli cybersecurity firm Wiz.
The biggest acquisition in Google's entire corporate history.
Yeah, completely dwarfing their purchases of YouTube, DoubleClick, Motorola, all of it.
It fundamentally reshapes the landscape. I mean, to give you a sense of the scale here, a deal of this magnitude isn't just a corporate milestone.
No.
It signals a structural shift in how the tech industry views infrastructure.
Exactly. And our goal today is to unpack exactly why a relatively young cloud security startup was worth that historic $32 billion payout.
What it means for the future of coding.
And the incredibly gutsy gamble the startup CEO took to get there. Because the financial timeline of this deal is fascinating.
It really is.
If we rewind to 2024, Google actually approached Wiz with a massive offer of $23 billion.
Which is an exit of a lifetime for the vast majority of founders.
You take the deal, you satisfy your venture capital backers, and you walk away a historic success.
But Wiz CEO Assaf Rappaport he walked away.
He declined the offer. And for you listening right now, try to put yourself in that room. Imagine having the conviction to look at a $23 billion term sheet from one of the most powerful companies on earth.
And deciding it undervalues your life's work.
It's wild. How do you even justify that?
Well, it requires a rare level of market clarity. Declining the capital wasn't a matter of hubris, you know? It was rooted in the raw data of their growth metrics.
Right, they were tracking the shift to decentralized multi-cloud environments.
Exactly. Rappaport and his board understood that the problem they were solving was compounding daily. He was basically running a probabilistic model in his head.
Betting that the company's revenue velocity would outpace the premium Google was offering in 2024.
Yeah, and he was banking on the fact that Google's strategic need for Wiz would only become more urgent.
And the data bore that out spectacularly, because by the first few months of 2025, talks revived.
And they agreed to the final price tag in March 2025.
$32 billion. That is a $9 billion premium generated purely by waiting 1 year.
Just incredible.
It translates to roughly $750 million in increased valuation for every single month. Rappaport held his ground.
But to play devil's advocate here,
Go for it.
a $32 billion valuation in a 2025 economic climate isn't just a slight premium. That is a highly aggressive multiple.
It is. So what was the underlying business justification for that price tag?
It came down to a very specific revenue milestone. In 2025, Wiz officially crossed $1 billion in annual recurring revenue.
ARR.
Right, ARR. And for you listening, achieving that metric is rare on its own, but doing it in the compressed time frame that Wiz did just a few years after their founding is virtually unprecedented in enterprise software.
So Google wasn't just paying for potential or projected user growth.
No, they're paying a massive revenue multiple for a highly predictable, sticky subscription base.
Because when a cybersecurity platform gets embedded across a Fortune 500 company's infrastructure,
the churn rate drops to near zero. It ceases to be just another software tool and becomes critical municipal plumbing.
Municipal plumbing, I like that. Let's examine that plumbing, actually, because we need to define what Wiz does that makes them so indispensable.
Yeah, the term cloud security gets thrown around a lot.
It does. But Wiz provides a security platform that protects major cloud environments in a really unique way. Rather than forcing an IT department to install individual security agents or software trackers on every single virtual machine.
Which is a logistical nightmare.
An absolute nightmare. Instead of that, they utilized an agentless scanning approach. They essentially plug directly into the cloud provider's API.
giving you a comprehensive satellite-level view of your entire infrastructure.
You can see all your vulnerabilities in minutes rather than months.
And that agentless architecture is exactly what allowed them to scale so rapidly. It also leads directly into the core strategic reality of modern enterprise tech.
The multi-cloud environment.
Exactly. Large organizations today don't just use one cloud. If you look at a major global bank or a retail conglomerate, they might run their primary data analytics on Google Cloud.
But host their customer-facing apps on Amazon Web Services.
Right, AWS. And then maintain their internal Active Directories on Microsoft Azure or Oracle Cloud.
So Wiz was built to secure that fragmented ecosystem.
Providing a single pane of glass for a security officer to monitor AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and Oracle simultaneously.
Which brings up a very pointed question regarding Google's strategy here. Because Google Cloud is locked in this fierce, perpetual battle for market share against AWS and Azure.
Yeah, they are.
So why would Google spend $32 billion to acquire a security platform that actively protects its biggest competitors?
Because it is a highly pragmatic acknowledgement of market realities.
What do you mean?
Google knows that trying to convince a massive enterprise to migrate petabytes of legacy data from AWS to Google Cloud is an uphill battle.
IT departments dread those migrations. They're costly, they cause outages, they take years.
Right. So instead of fighting a losing battle on compute and storage migration, Google is choosing to own the overarching security layer.
So even though Wiz joins Google Cloud, they maintain their own brand.
And their commitment to securing customers across all cloud environments. This is Google's play to win more enterprise clients by offering a unified security platform.
Effectively getting a foothold, even in companies that rely entirely on Google's competitors.
Exactly. By keeping Wiz brand independent, Google embeds itself deeply into the operations of companies that primarily use Amazon or Microsoft.
But if I'm a chief information officer and 80% of my workloads are running on AWS, am I not going to be highly skeptical of handing the security keys over to Google?
You would be.
Isn't there a risk that Google uses this to gain unprecedented visibility into a competitor's ecosystem?
That skepticism is exactly why Google legally structured Wiz to operate with a high degree of autonomy. They know that trust is the actual product they're selling.
Because if clients suspect Wiz is degrading its AWS integration to favor Google Cloud,
the platform's value evaporates overnight. Google's strategy isn't to force a migration. It's to capture a significant percentage of the client's IT budget through security.
while simultaneously building a direct relationship with the CIO.
Exactly. Once Google is a trusted partner securing the AWS workloads, it becomes significantly easier to pitch Google Cloud for the client's next major AI project.
It's a brilliant long-term play. But that structural shift in enterprise IT is only part of the story. There's a second, arguably more urgent catalyst for this acquisition.
The changing tech landscape.
Yeah, specifically how software is being written right now. We are firmly in the era of vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Yes. For you listening, if you aren't familiar with the concept, it is a colloquialism for a radical shift in software engineering. Developers are no longer manually writing out syntax line by painstaking line.
They're orchestrating AI models.
Right. You provide the large language model with a prompt, the conceptual framework, the logic, the vibe of the application.
And the AI generates the underlying code base almost instantaneously.
It accelerates development cycles by orders of magnitude, but it creates a structural nightmare for security teams.
A total nightmare. When human engineers write code, they follow established frameworks. It can be audited through peer review.
But when an LLM generates thousands of lines of code in seconds,
It often introduces highly complex, opaque vulnerabilities.
we are seeing AI models hallucinate non-existent software libraries or inadvertently expose internal API keys.
Or create convoluted logic paths that traditional static security tools just cannot interpret. The code is deployed faster than any human security team can manually review it.
And it's not just the code creation that's changing. The nature of the attacks is evolving alongside it.
We are seeing a massive increase in prompt-based attacks.
This is a threat vector that didn't even exist in traditional cybersecurity paradigms. A hacker isn't looking for a misconfigured firewall anymore.
Or a mathematical flaw in an encryption algorithm.
No, they are using natural language to manipulate the AI models embedded within an application.
It's a fundamental shift. Because applications are increasingly integrating AI assistants to interface with databases, attackers are finding ways to inject malicious prompts.
Just cleverly constructed English sentences to bypass the AI's safety guardrails.
Tricking the model into revealing sensitive customer data or granting administrative access.
And a traditional web application firewall has no concept of how to parse a conversational prompt that functionally acts as a cyber attack.
Right, traditional security is basically obsolete here.
It's surreal. We built these incredibly sophisticated AI gatekeepers, and threat actors realize they can bypass the heavy artillery just by having a highly manipulative conversation with the guard.
So you have to fight AI with AI.
Exactly. And this is precisely where the $32 billion valuation for Wiz comes sharply into focus.
Wiz realized early on that static security posture management was dying. They leaned heavily into their own proprietary AI to monitor the entire life cycle of a cloud environment.
It's a layered defense mechanism. They improve threat detection at every single layer.
Right. First, they deploy AI to analyze the generative code as it is being created by developers.
Trying to catch structural flaws or hallucinated dependencies before it ever hits production.
But catching it in the development phase is only half the battle, because an LLM might generate code that looks perfectly fine during a static scan.
But behaves maliciously once it actually starts interacting with live data.
Precisely. And that is why Wiz's runtime behavioral analysis is so critical. They monitor the infrastructure while it's actively executing,
Establishing a baseline for normal behavioral patterns.
so if an internal AI suddenly starts querying an unusual database at 3 in the morning,
Or if a user input starts exhibiting the linguistic hallmarks of a prompt injection attack.
the Wiz platform flags the anomaly and autonomously isolates the compromised container in real time.
It's a high-stakes game of AI cat and mouse. They are effectively constructing an autonomous immune system capable of identifying zero-day vulnerabilities.
An autonomous immune system securing the multi-cloud architecture.
It sounds like the ultimate silver bullet for enterprise tech. But acquiring that capability is a grueling process.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, as we established, the deal was announced in March of 2025.
But it took a full year to actually close today.
Navigating the logistics of a mega merger in the current climate is a massive bureaucratic hurdle.
It is an antitrust gauntlet. Global regulators are inherently suspicious of large-scale tech consolidation right now.
When a dominant tech conglomerate tries to buy a market leader in cybersecurity, it immediately triggers probes.
Regulators have to ensure the merger won't stifle innovation or create a monopolistic chokehold.
So how did they cross the finish line? What was the timeline like?
Well, in the U.S., regulators scrutinized whether Google would degrade Wiz's integration with AWS and Azure.
To force clients into Google Cloud.
Right, so Google had to provide binding commitments demonstrating Wiz would remain platform agnostic. They finally secured approval from U.S. regulators in November of 2025.
But the transaction still remained in limbo because of the European Union.
The EU is always a formidable hurdle. Their investigation focused on data sovereignty and the potential for illegal bundling.
Ensuring Google wouldn't leverage its dominance in search to aggressively bundle Wiz's products and price out smaller European vendors.
Exactly. It required complex legal negotiations to finally secure the green light from the EU in February of 2026.
It just shows that an acquisition of this monumental size doesn't happen overnight. You have to survive the global regulators.
It's a definitive victory for Google on multiple fronts.
So let's concisely recap this journey. We've tracked a historic $32 billion cash deal.
Driven by a massive multi-cloud security strategy.
And the necessary evolution of AI defenses in the era of vibe coding.
And for you listening, whether you work in tech, invest, or simply use cloud-based apps every day, this matters to you.
Definitely.
Because the infrastructure holding your digital life together, from your mobile banking to your health records, is fundamentally shifting to this unified AI-driven security model.
That digital trust is the invisible foundation of our world. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question to mull over.
Let's hear it.
With the rise of AI-generated vibe coding creating vast new vulnerabilities, and massive tech giants like Google buying up the ultimate AI security platforms to defend against them.
Are we heading toward a future where only a few trillion-dollar companies hold the keys?
Exactly. Are we moving toward a paradigm where a few mega corporations hold both the keys to creating our digital world and the only viable shields to protect it?
It's a heavy question.
It is. If the entities providing the infrastructure are the sole entities capable of defending it, what does that mean for the future?
It's a complex paradox to navigate.
We will certainly be watching to see how it unfolds. Thank you so much for tuning in to techaily.ai. We hope this gave you a clear understanding of the forces shaping our technology. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.